Hello and welcome to Kickoff Commentary, and today, something a little bit different. I desperately want, if you would in the comment section today, let me know if you loved this or if you hated this. I want genuine feedback of any kind. I want to get a read on this because this is very different from anything you've seen on the channel before in the new era or in previous. Going to be doing a retro review of a football game here today. I like the idea of this, but if you don't, if you hate watching this, let me know, genuinely. Or if you love it, let me know too. Especially if you enjoyed it, mention one of your favorite games in the comments on this particular video, so we can review that one, or at least try to. But I thought the perfect start to this would be what is probably my favorite game. And it is Robbie with me here today. Robbie, would you say this is your favorite game?
Definitely favorite game of all time, I would say.
Yeah,
In
so
college
we're going to go
football,
back to 2007. The Arkansas Razorbacks taking on the number one ranked LSU Tigers. A little background on this game. This game was on Black Friday in 2007, where the Arkansas-LSU rivalry belongs, I might
Oh,
add,
don't even get me started, man.
before they ruined it so that Texas A&M
Yeah.
could join the conference, which in
Yeah.
and of itself was a mistake, but I suppose that's neither here nor there. So the day after Thanksgiving in 2007, I would have been 7 years old. Robbie, I think you're a little older than me, right? You've been 8?
Yeah, I've been about 8, yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
So this is one of the first games I have a really deep memory of. It's probably why it's my favorite game of all time. And a little background to this game: Arkansas, heading into this matchup, has 7 wins on the season, unranked at this point. They are 7-4. This is Houston Nutt, the head coach, just in his 10th and final season at Arkansas. A lot of questions about how long he would be the head coach of the Razorbacks at this point. Whereas on the other side, you had the LSU Tigers, who were 10-1 at that point, sitting at number 1 in the nation. Their only loss that season to that point was against number 17 Kentucky back on October 13th. They lost 43-37 in triple overtime. You're gonna want to keep that number in your head as we kind of go through here. So as far as the rosters go, LSU sent a ton of players off this team into the NFL, particularly at quarterback Matt Flynn, wide receiver Brandon LaFell, Glenn Dorsey, one of the defensive linemen, was a high draft pick. And incredibly to me, Al Woods, one of the defensive tackles, still in the NFL today from this 2007 college football game. Kind of wild. Not to mention Jacob Hester, the fullback, Stephen Ridley, the running back for LSU. A few others. Trenton Holiday, the kick returner. Brandon LaFell played with the Patriots, won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady in 2014. Early Doucette played a few years for the Cardinals as well. And then on Arkansas side of it, not as many NFL players, certainly. You had DJ Williams, who was a tight end for the Packers briefly. Marcus Monk, I believe, was in Bears training camp. But then you have, and Robbie, you can rein me in if you want to. I believe
The
the
best backfield of all
greatest
time.
backfield, yeah, exactly, the
Yeah.
greatest
I knew where you were
backfield in
going.
the history
Yeah, agreed.
of college
Agreed.
football.
I don't. Yeah.
I would hear an argument otherwise, and if you have one in the comments, again, leave it there too.
Yeah, let me know, because I'd like
You're
to
not
know.
going to beat
Yeah.
McFadden, Jones, and Hillis.
I just don't
All
see
NFL
how.
players, all good NFL players.
Yep.
Two of them have 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL. Felix has an 800-yard season. For Felix, I think it was mainly a usage issue in Dallas. I feel like, honestly, if you flipped McFadden and Jones's teams, they both have better NFL careers. And, I mean, Hillis has a Madden cover in there, so obviously, you know. And I didn't mention Jake Beckett, who was a freshman at tight end, actually, this year for Arkansas.
You mean you mean the next Jake Beckett, the politician or the football player?
You know, I'm gonna bury the lead a little bit of this one here. I'm gonna be honest. When I saw Jake Beckett running for like politician in Arkansas for like the
Yep.
Senate, I thought it had to be a different person, and then I googled it, and no,
Yep.
yes, Jake Beckett, the tight end defensive end convert, briefly played for the Patriots, is currently running for Senate in Arkansas at the
He's
time of
getting
this
my vote.
recording.
It's Jake
So,
Beckett.
so as you may remember, though, Robbie, this means that
Mm.
with Tommy Tuberville as a senator down in Alabama,
Yep. Coach
that
Tubbs.
that the SEC is currently waging a hostile takeover. Which, if I'm
Of the U.S.
correct,
Senate, yes.
does that should mean then, right, that the SEC has more congressmen than any other
That's right.
conference
That's right.
in
How
in
many SEC championships do the rest of the
the
senators
rest of the Senate?
have?
It's amazing. So
Mhm.
yeah, so Arkansas is 7-4 here. They're already bowl eligible at this point. They're playing for
Mhm.
pride more than anything in this rivalry game. LSU is playing for a lot more. If they win this game, assuming they can win the conference championship, of course, they're pretty much punching a ticket here to the national championship.
Yep.
So the game kicks off. They were in LSU, in Baton Rouge,
in Baton Rouge in that Death Valley.
in Death Valley, Tiger Stadium, capacity 92,400.
What a
And
place.
the stadium has a lot of quirks about it. We were
Hmm.
talking about during watching this game back, Robbie. I think I'd asked you about them. So LSU has yard markers like on the field for every 5 yards as opposed to every 10,
Instead
and
of
pretty
10.
much every stadium I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I'm gonna be honest here. How do
I
you
think
feel
it's
about
cool.
that? I think it's
I
cool.
think it's interesting at least. I mean, I've literally
I,
never been to another stadium where that's the case.
I
I've never
don't I
seen
don't
that.
love the drop shadow, like the little yellow drop shadow
Yeah,
underneath the
I've never
number.
been a fan of drop shadows. Hoxie
It's a
used to do that as well, and I didn't like it.
it's a little busy. I just think for if you're gonna have
Yeah,
all those yard markers out there,
never been a fan of that. Even when regular yard markers,
um,
I don't like the drop shadows.
also instead of like a helmet logo or tiger head, they have the tiger eye at midfield. Young me was perplexed by this. I could not figure it
Yeah,
out. Once I realized, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like it.
it's pretty
Uh,
neat, I will say.
and then the last field quirk, although this isn't exclusive, obviously, just to LSU, but they do have the H-shaped goalposts instead of what I call the T-shaped. It has the hold-up bars on both sides. Little thing here, not a fan. I'm gonna be honest.
I could see that.
So on the call for this game, the announced team is Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson,
Uh,
and I'm bringing this up because it will come up throughout the game later on. But the game starts off, and immediately the opening kickoff of the game, LSU kicks off to Arkansas, and Darren McFadden, Arkansas's Heisman candidate running back, fumbles the opening kickoff, and LSU recovers. This it's interesting that this is the last game of the Houston Nutt era because I feel like this one play kind of encapsulates Arkansas football
yeah,
for most of my lifetime, most recent year and the Bobby era notwithstanding. Um, but the defense holds LSU to field goal. Kind of a boring action, but from that point onward, LSU gets another field goal, 6-0. The first part of this game is not. There's not of action. It's very
pretty slow.
interesting to me how
First half.
slow this starts off. Every time I watch it back, it intrigues me. Arkansas finally breaks through. I believe it's McFadden that scores the first touchdown of the game. Correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, to make it 7-6.
Yep.
And that's where the score holds for a large chunk of the middle of this game. But the Arkansas defense steps up and gets a ton of penetration for tackles for loss and sacks, and they just sort of holds aces on this for the rest of the second quarter into the early third. With 9 minutes left in the third quarter, this game is still 7-6 with 9:58 on the game clock. It's crazy. And then of course that's when the most memorable play from this whole game. It's the one if you follow Arkansas on Instagram, they'll post this at least once a year in reference. Darren McFadden's breakaway 70+ yard run.
73-yard touchdown.
73-yard touchdown run. That of course ends with Casey Dick, the quarterback, 40 yards downfield, hitting Chad Jones with an absolutely nasty block to finally bring the scoring back. I mean, this is McFadden's signature play. This is kind of the signature play I think of Arkansas football, probably. For the past.
Yeah, I mean it's either that or his game against South Carolina. I mean that's just the two
the
McFadden
only
moments that you think of. I mean,
for McFadden, as far as Arkansas, I think it's this and probably Hunter Henry's lateral against Ole Miss in 2015.
the laterals.
Those are the two things I think you think of most when you think of Arkansas football. That puts it 14-6 in favor of the Razorbacks here. But then immediately this play, funnily enough, I mean that was what lights the match, and we're off from there. Less than 3 minutes later, Jacob Hester, the fullback, wanted to play for the Chargers in the NFL, I believe, punches it in from about 10-15 yards out, and
12-yard touchdown. Yeah.
And it's 14-12. Immediately after that, they go for two. Matt Flynn, the quarterback, you remember him as Russell Wilson's starter backup with Seattle, makes it around the corner edge, makes it 14-14. And from here, it doesn't really stop. These two just do this at each other for the rest.
Off, which is so crazy because the first half was kind of a snooze fest. Yeah.
Less than 3 minutes after that, in the Wild Hog formation, known as the Wildcat to NFL fans. A little story here. So when the Dolphins did this in 2008, like the Wildcat season for them, young me was deeply offended. I was like, why aren't they calling it the Wild Hog? Like, what is this?
Yeah, like, what?
I didn't realize, the wider implications of this. I thought that they had stolen it, and they thought it was not being adequately applied. But yeah, I mean, I guess the mind of an 8-year-old there, very simple-minded. That's my thing. That's our thing.
Yeah.
So they go to Peyton Hillis. Yes, Madden cover Peyton Hillis, and he takes it like 65 yards.
65-yard touchdown.
In open field, unfettered. And that makes it 21-14 Arkansas. And we've just had like 3 touchdowns in the space of 4 minutes of game clock. I mean, the offenses have arrived at this point.
Yep.
Man, as we here, Hillis has got to be smaller here than in the NFL, right?
Yeah, he definitely put on quite a bit of weight when he went to the league. I don't know if they told him he could only play fullback or what it was, but
Well, if you remember, he actually got drafted by Denver, and then McDaniels came in and they butted heads. Which, I mean, I don't think in Denver anyone didn't butt heads with McDaniels. That was just kind of the way he ran things there.
yeah,
Then he gets traded to Cleveland and has that great season, and then kind of breaks down after that. I feel like the frame hurt him in regards to longevity in the NFL, but
I agree.
as
I agree.
as you mentioned, I don't know that you would have had that season in Cleveland if he didn't have the bigger frame. I think that was a big part of why that all worked out.
Guess so. Guess we'll never know really.
Yeah. So immediately after that, LSU hits this big hitter to the running back Scott to get straight down the field. They're moving. Yeah, I mean the offensive movement after McFadden's long touchdown in this game, it doesn't stop. It is a constant back and forth down the field. Uh, Arkansas gets them to a 3rd and goal with 2:26 in the third. Then Matt Flynn throws a rocket to receiver Demetrius Byrd. And that ties the game up at 21. And we've just had 4 touchdowns in the span of like 7 minutes of game clock in a game that was 7-6 well into the second half. Arkansas gets it back. This is later in the fourth now. When we get back to the scoring, Felix Jones gets the reverse from McFadden and takes this thing deep into LSU territory. It's almost a screen, really.
Yeah,
Not even
kind
like
of.
not
Yeah.
even a straight up reverse because they have all the linemen shoot out to the left side. And this leads to Darren McFadden out of the wildlife formation running a play action to Julio Jones, stepping up and then doing a jump pass to Peyton Hillis
Yep.
for a
QB1
touchdown.
McFadden.
For the touchdown there.
Yep.
McFadden's, I believe in this game, ended up with 4 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 1 passing. Just an absolute clinic from him. I think Hillis would get into the end zone 3 times as well. My favorite part, the funny thing here is the scoreboard ticker on CBS pops up Casey Dick's passing stats because it has no idea what to do with McFadden being the one who threw the touchdown. And that makes it up to 28-21 Arkansas. After this, LSU gets the ball back. We're down to just under 2 minutes left. Matt Flynn throws across the middle. It's a excellent defensive play on the throw, but it ricochets off the receiver's hands into the hands of their tight end, and he takes this thing like 35 yards deep into Arkansas territory.
I mean,
Just one of those things, man. The luckiest things. Arkansas gets LSU to a 4th and goal with a minute left. Flynn goes across the middle and hits Demetrius Byrd for the game-tying touchdown. Now, this play is always kind of stuck with me as one of my least favorite, not because of the game at large. Your team's going to make mistakes. 4th and goal, almost got him off the field. That would have ended the game right there. Vern Lundquist, the lead play-by-play guy here, this man, who's got to be in his 60s at this point, at least, his voice cracks with excitement about this touchdown. Go on YouTube if you can after this and try to find the highlights for this game and look at the touchdown to Demetrius Byrd to tie this thing up at the end of regulation. Vern Lundquist is acting as if he's just seen the ending of Super Bowl 51, 28-3. I mean, he's freaking out here. And that would be fine if not for something that's going to come up later. But moving on with this play, LSU ties it up at 28 with a minute left. Neither team does anything in the last minute, and we go to overtime. LSU gets the ball first in overtime, 2nd and 10, second play of overtime. They run a QB draw with Flynn. LSU blocks it to perfection. Flynn cuts it back, touchdown. LSU 35-28 in overtime. Obviously, college overtime rules a little different from the NFL. The ball comes back to the Razorbacks. Casey Dick is running around, finally finds deep. Peyton Hillis just passed the first down marker to get him down to the 10. Hillis was all over the field as a receiver in this game. That's like his 5th or 6th catch to this point.
Yeah, he had good hands, man.
Afterwards, they get to a 3rd down. They throw a fade to Hillis again, and he catches his 2nd touchdown of the game. This is a great throw by Casey Dick. It's a better catch by Hillis to get this over good underneath coverage by Highsmith, the linebacker. Just a crazy sequence of events for Hillis there. Obviously, in college overtime, it goes snakes back the other way, so Arkansas gets it. Felix Jones takes a carry from the 25 inside of the 10. Great balance. He got about 5 extra yards because he didn't go out of bounds over the course of this. The next play, they gave the ball to McFadden, and he just used that acceleration to get into the end zone for the billionth time that day.
Unreal quickness. I mean, he was.
Yeah. I mean, he was. I'm still stunned he wasn't Adrian Peterson. I mean, I really don't know.
He really should have been. I really think it's the Raiders. I mean, if he would.
I think it's the Raiders too. I think it's just a bad situation. LSU gets their chance to respond after that. They go to Hester again, the fullback. He punches it in from short yardage out. LSU ties things up at 42. Reminder: this game was 7-6 early 3rd quarter. So Arkansas gets the ball back after this. McFadden, out of the wild hog formation again, takes the handoff himself, uses his balance kind of like Felix Jones, and gets down to about the 3. Showing that run put him over 200 yards on the day. Just an unreal game by McFadden. Very next play, they go to Hillis again. Hillis and McFadden, I think, are the only ones who score touchdowns in this game. For Arkansas. So Hillis punches it in, 48-42. But in the third overtime, in the old college rules, the better college rules, you now have to go for 2 in the third overtime or onward. They go toss play to Felix Jones, the forgotten man in this game in the backfield. He gets his 2-point conversion. Felix, in some way, gets to go into the end zone. It is now 50-42 Arkansas.
Yep. And you are right. It was actually all McFadden and Hillis. They were.
Yeah. So the pendulum swings back to LSU. 2nd and 6 for Flynn here. And he throws across to Brandon LaFell, the NFL Brandon receiver LaFell. There. Great catch by LaFell. He fights it into the end zone, and just like that, LSU has forced a chance for the 2-point conversion here. So LSU, single play. This will determine if the game continues into 4th overtime or not. Flynn drops, goes for a similar pass to his rifle in the third quarter. Goes to Retrieve Bird again. Material Richardson intercepts it, and Arkansas wins the game 50-48 in triple overtime.
What a game!
What a game! A few notes here. Number one, after Lundquist says intercepted, Arkansas wins. There is an 18-second stretch where there is nothing else on the broadcast. You'd have think his dog died in front of him.
Yeah, he didn't say it excitedly at all. He just said interception. Arkansas wins.
It is intercepted. He literally says intercepted. Material Richardson. Arkansas wins, and then says nothing for 18 full seconds before saying the dream dies for LSU.
And they literally knocked off the number 1 team in the country. Like I don't understand.
This is like, I mean, these guys aren't LSU's home commentary team. This was the CBS national broadcast.
Yeah, game of the week.
Unranked Arkansas just went into played against the number 1 team in the nation, beat them in triple overtime on a 2-point conversion interception.
On the road, yeah.
I don't think you could make a more exciting finish to a game, and he's acting like it's a funeral procession.
If this game happened this year in real life, these announcers would know what to do with themselves.
No. I'm very happy for Lundquist retired. He's a bad announcer, and I'm glad he's gone.
Brad Nessler's way better. I'm glad that's.
Yeah, Gary will retire one day and will be better for it, but for now I can live with the Nessler-Danielson pairing. Just what a game. I mean, really, what more can you say? 50-48. I mean, these two... Yeah, after the McFadden touchdown, I mean, if you like action, I mean, these two go at each other.
It's crazy.
And don't stop.
And the crazy part is that that fumble by McFadden on the opening kickoff is the only turnover of the game. There's no other turnover.
Yeah, it's really clean. And McFadden does have another fumble in the second quarter that we didn't cover right away, but he does fumble. He recovers it himself. A little sloppy from McFadden there, but other than that, I mean, McFadden 3 rushing, 1 passing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the better games you'll ever see. Although it's not even the best game of McFadden's career.
It's not.
McFadden has a game against South Carolina, 2006. Is it 326 yards?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Darren McFadden, as Houston Nutt said in the postgame interview, put him in the Heisman.
He should have won it. He should have a Heisman on his record. I mean,
yeah, he should be within the trophy. Put him in the Heisman, as he said. And of course, Darren McFadden says it's Arkansas, not Arkansas. I love that. Bringing it full circle on Les Miles for the Arkansas.
Who literally said Arkansas before the game?
He said we're preparing for Arkansas in the press conference. That naturally has riled everybody up. Arkansas with the huge win here today in this game. However, in the immediate aftermath of this, after the 18-second delay in saying anything, Lundquist returns to say the dream dies for LSU. That, of course, meaning that with this loss, LSU was very likely eliminated from national championship contention. However, 2007 is unique in that it is the craziest run that any college football season has ever had. There is a 56-day run from October to December that year where teams ranked number 1 or number 2 lose a combined 11 times.
It was just insane.
So because of this, after this game happens, number 2 Kansas loses to Mizzou, number 1 Mizzou loses to Oklahoma, and number 2 West Virginia loses to Pitt, clearing the way for LSU to jump all the way back from number 5 back into the top 2 after beating Tennessee in the SEC championship game, where they go on to beat Ohio State to win the national championship. This will never happen again. You will never see a team.
No, it can't. It can't ever happen again. Yeah.
Could a team lose their last game and still make the national championship? Yes, especially now with the playoff.
College football playoff.
Will you see a team take their second loss in the last game of the season and still get in? No chance, right? I mean, never going to happen again.
Nope.
Funnily enough for LSU, if this is any solace, and they have a championship, so I don't know that they actually need solace here. LSU didn't lose any games in regulation here. Their losses to Kentucky and Arkansas were both in triple overtime. at the end of the fourth quarter, they never trailed. It's a fantastic team. It's why they won the national championship there. That is Les Miles's lone championship there. As far as Arkansas, unfortunately, this is kind of the last highlight they'll have going in with this particular era. After this game, Houston Nutt resigned to take the job at Ole Miss in conference there, which earned him no favors from a fan base that was already wearing thin of his lack of success, especially after the previous year where he ran off offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn.
Future Arkansas coaching legend Gus Malzahn, but was not to be.
Arkansas coaching legend Gus Malzahn, along with Mitch Mustain and Mike Williams.
The best
really,
recruit we've ever had, probably the best coach we've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, busted up what was going to be a fantastic. I mean, it was a core. I mean, that could have been Arkansas's core for the end of 2006 through 09.
Yep.
So after that game, the coach leaves. Reggie Herring takes over as the interim, and then bad goes to worse for Arkansas. They get the Cotton Bowl against Mizzou, but Darren McFadden and I believe Felix Jones both opted to not play. As to preserve themselves for the NFL draft.
They were both first-round picks, so I mean,
both first-round picks. And I feel like this was less common then. I feel like this surprised me at the time.
This was much less common. This nowadays is really nothing, but back then that was less common for sure.
And so Arkansas faced number 7 Missouri. They were number 25 after this game. Also, a note about this for all 5 people who care. The uniform set that Arkansas has here is a version of their current one. They're basically the same thing. This game against Missouri, to my knowledge, is the only time Arkansas wore a red jersey and red pant combination.
Yeah, they didn't do it very often.
So no Houston Nutt, no Darren McFadden, and no Felix Jones, and no chance. Arkansas lost that game 38-7.
Yep.
Got obliterated in the Cotton Bowl, and then the next year the Bobby Petrino era began, which was a fantastic era with obviously a less than exciting ending. Which and then of course led into Arkansas's dark period for several years under Bielema and Morris before it looks like, I believe at least, Sam Pittman is currently bringing Arkansas back to some level of prominence. This is a fun one to look back on. I watched the highlight clip of this game a lot.
Yeah, what a game. I mean, I remember watching it live. That's why it's so great for me. I mean,
yeah, same here. It's one of the first games I really remember deeply, and it was a heck of a game to first remember with just how crazy it was, with just how good Arkansas was there. And I just, man, like I know this has obviously been a talking point for years, but it makes me so sad that McFadden wasn't, and just like a perennial Pro Bowler in the NFL.
He had the tools, he had everything he needed.
He was so fast, he was so good. I mean, he had a lot of carries in college, but I mean, so did Najee Harris. I mean, Najee Harris had like 1,000 carries at Alabama.
Oh yeah, I mean, running backs don't have a long shelf life anyway, but I really think he could have been, multiple All-Pro type player. I mean,
he was on the Jamarcus Russell Raiders. I mean, that's not exactly an era of football I think anybody looks back on as.
When he was not, I don't want to call him old, but when he was much past his prime, he had good seasons in Dallas. It was crazy to me. Like if this was him from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it's so 2015. The year after DeMarco Murray left the Cowboys to go to the Eagles. McFadden stepped in and had 1,000 yards, his second highest career total in Dallas, and 4.6 yards per carry.
And he was willing to his 30s at that point. I mean, that's.
He was 28 actually.
Yeah.
He was 21 when he got drafted.
That's
he was super young when he got drafted.
Yeah, he was so young. That's crazy though. I mean, like.
McFadden did not win the Heisman for his 7th season, by the way.
From the rip, I think he could have been.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his 2011 season in Oakland, 5.5 yards per carry. Those numbers aren't just good; those are elite numbers.
That's elite running back numbers, yeah. Well, he had size, speed, elusiveness. I mean, he had everything. I mean,
you look at Zeke, and you look at his rookie season, 5.1 yards per carry. McFadden has that yards per carry number beaten in that year in Oakland. The year before, 5.2. I mean, McFadden had big play written all over him, and the Raiders just could not ever capitalize on it. It's a real shame. You'll probably hear this from any Arkansas fan, but man, if it had been Dallas first or maybe any other team, it should have been different. It really should have.
It should have been, but you can do this all day. But Darren, he just had so many injuries. I think he was honestly too. Sometimes I think he was too big for his own good. He had a receiver's body and a running back, as a running back in it. I don't know if that took a toll on him or what, but.
The foot injury list notwithstanding, it really makes it more interesting just how good Henry's been, because he's a little bigger than McFadden.
Yeah, he is, which is crazy.
And he's been able for the most part. And the real thing, I think, is that just Tennessee put too many carries on him.
Yeah,
But
that's what it is. Yeah, they're gonna have to lighten us a little bit.
um, either way, though, that was Arkansas LSU 2007, one of my absolute favorite games of all time. Once again, please feedback below. I want to hear what you guys think of this. This was a fun one, though. Robbie, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did.
Yeah, man, it's great. Love this game.
Sure. And we'll see you guys next time.